Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Buchner gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everybody and welcome to the AOC Gaming's League of Champions powered by VRRC. Apologies about that. My name is Jack Oliphant and alongside me in the virtual commentary box, as per usual, is Dave Marshall. You're here joining us for the mini JCW round 3 here at the, in my opinion, underutilized Laguna Seca. 2 20-minute races on your way as per usual. If anybody is used to the League of Champions these days, you should know the format. But in case you don't, it's race 1 for 20 minutes and then a reverse grid, top 10 reverse grid, for race number 2 for 20 minutes as well. Laguna Seca is one of the hardest tracks in the world, in my opinion. Very challenging, specifically famous for one brilliant corner as well, isn't it, Dave? It's a tricky one for front-wheel drives.
Yeah, well, it is indeed. I mean, if it wasn't for the sake of being scared of flying, I would love to actually go out there because I think it's one of them tracks where you can't tell how steep that corkscrew is unless if you actually go there in real life. Yeah, that's the thing. The corkscrew is the one of the corners we're going to be keeping a close eye on. However, what are we doing today? Well, we're doing the mini JCW fixed setup, of course. We've been to Hockenheim, we've been to the Nürburgring, a GP short, that is. And we're doing the Laguna Seca today. The finale is next week at Brands Hatch GP circuit as well. So that is lining up to be a tasty treat indeed. If the other League of Champions series have been anything to go by, the finales are always spectacular. And what have been
the League of Champions other series? Well, we've had the Ginetta Super Cup, we've had the Touring Cars, the GT4 Sprint Cup, and now, of course, onto the Mini JCW. So we are getting into the hot and heavy section of the League of Champions. But Dave, what exactly are these guys winning? There's 20 grand worth of prize funds. What does it entail?
Yeah, there is indeed. So basically, all them go forward into a qualifying finale, but each individual championship, as you see, first place prize is one of our fantastic SR5, our Sim Race 5 chassis. Second place gets you one of our SR3 Sim Race 3 chassis, and then third place prize is one of our GT F1 seats. So it's a seat that goes from an upright rally GT style position all the way back into a full F1 Le Mans whatever style seat that you want, all using exactly the same seat, the same brackets, just moving them bolt holes. Also available in a variety of colours as well. And then also from 4th down to 8th place is our different membership packages that get you discounts in store, entries into championships, things like that. So yeah, a lot of prizes to be won, as well as, of course, our driver of the round. Thanks to AOC, our main sponsor for the League of Champions. You can see a fantastic gaming headset there for our driver of the round, which actually, Jack, last round out, went to 2 separate drivers.
It was absolute madness, drama from start to finish, wasn't it? But Jack McIntyre was one of those 2 drivers. Has to say, it probably deserved as well. He was absolutely flying. Just missed out on the perfect round, I believe, but he was on another level. Callum Newsham in 2nd place took the second most amount of points from the Nürburgring, of course. Ryan Elliott was in 3rd as well, staying strong in the minis. Driver of the round, we've already mentioned Jack McIntyre, I think, and Nicky Taylor. I'm not sure. Dave is. I'm not sure if that graphic is correct, saying Jordan Brennan. I don't know if you can confirm that or not.
I can't actually.
I thought it was Jack McIntyre, but anyway, we've got another opportunity.
I think it might have actually been Jordan Brennan, Nicky Taylor. But yeah, it was a fantastic drive by both drivers. I mean, as you said, Nicky Taylor was just outright entertainment, wasn't he? He was absolutely, every opportunity he had to just show his nose up the inside of a corner, and he just went for it, put his nose there, fight all the way through, and provided some fantastic entertainment for us.
Yeah, I'm going to have to fire the guy who does my notes, i.e. me. Jack McIntyre then on the top of the points for the standings at the moment, 59. That gives him 80 kilograms of ballast on board as well. Jordan Brennan then in 2nd place, only 2 points behind, 70 kilos on board. There's weight for rate. They cascade by 10 kilos in every position. Scott Bugner in 3rd and hoping to maybe get himself up 1 or 2 more positions, as he's in need of a new sim apparently, and he'd be hoping for the Sim Race 5 or the Sim Race Sim Race 3 as terms of those prizes. Callum Newsham in 4th place, 51 points, so 2 points behind Scott Bugner. Ryan Elliott in 5th, only 1 point behind Callum Newsham. Dan Zelos in 6th, Andy Dorman in 7th, and Chris Shepherd rounds out the drivers who have currently got ballast on board. And I can tell you right now, before we even go into the hot lap, Chris Shepherd is flying in practice. Well, he has been flying in practice, so look out for him jumping up the leaderboard. We're going to go to a hot lap now, and Dave will be showing us around the Laguna Seca.
So here we go across the line for round 3 at the Mini JCW Championship at Laguna Seca, one of my favourite tracks, down to the Andretti hairpin. Really difficult corner to double apex, trying to get it all as one, trying to not overcorrect too many times with that steering, just one nice input. Down to turn 3, really aggressive inside curve, so you want to be as close as you can, but trying to get the best run out possible. Into turn 4, yet again another one of them big red curbs on the inside. You don't want to clip that, but also really severe drop away on the exit of that left-hander, so just trying to carry as much speed through there as possible. Turn 5 is uphill, so carrying 3rd, get the best momentum. This is going to be a great opportunity to get a slight overlap, put a bit of pressure on for one of them overtakes. To turn 6, such a blind entry. You can see we had a little moment there on initial turn in, a little bit too early. If we were to clip that, who knows what would have happened. Possibly a big roll into gravel there. Really hard in the infamous corkscrew. We're going to carry 3rd gear just so we don't have to do a gear change. As we drop away through the gradient there, the diff might possibly light up. Brilliant corner, drop away, pitch it onto the nose here through that left-hander, just get that back end nice and light. Difficult right-hander, you almost think it's going to be a bit faster than what it actually is, and into the final curve, down to second gear, trying to get the best drive possible, and hopefully that'll be good enough for a pole lap. Make sure you tune in from 7:15 on Tuesday night and catch up on all the action on our Facebook and YouTube platforms.
And that was Laguna Seca, in case anybody had never seen the track before. Very famous circuit, as we mentioned before, one of the most popular circuits in America, and these minis are serving it really rather well. Dave, you obviously did the hot lap, but you are a connoisseur in the minis, aren't you? Talk us through, I mean, is Laguna Seca a tricky track? Is it much different from the other tracks we've had on this championship, i.e. the Nürburgring or Brands Hatch GP?
Yeah, you know what, actually, I mean, it's a track that these minis have never been to in real life for a start. So, I mean, the car's completely new on this track and car combo. But yeah, for me, Laguna Seca is one of them tracks where more than ever, it's all about the speed you carry and the momentum around the corners. A lot of the corners are third, fourth gear corners where you're loading up that front end with a little pitch of brake and then rolling the speed in. So here it's sort of amplified. If you get a bad exit out of any of the corners, by the end of the straight, that's grown to not just a tenth, which it will maybe be on other tracks. It can be as much as 3-4 tenths. I was just doing a bit of coaching with Will Powell just before this, and actually that corner he just come out of, with it being an uphill, if he didn't get the run through there, he lost half a second by the time he got the corkscrew. So the fact that if these drivers are putting in consistent laps, honestly, fair play to them. It is an incredibly hard track.
It is indeed, yeah. So we'll be keeping an eye on the quickest drivers. At the moment, the quickest driver is Dan Zelos by just over a tenth of a second to Jordan Brennan. And then you got Chris Shepherd in third place, Ryan Elliott in fourth, Andy Carroll in fifth, Mick Sutton sixth, seventh Andy Dorman, Scott Bugner in eighth, Will Powell ninth, and then the reason I'm reading out all the way to 10th place is the driver who did take driver of the round in the last round. We're 90% sure it was Jack Mack. And he's also the championship leader. He's all the way down in 10th position at the moment. He has come into the pit, so we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on him. Here's Brad Smith. He's on a bit of an improvement in sector 2 as he goes down towards the first couple of corners now. So Dan Zelos, Dave, he wasn't really there in practice. I mean, he sort of was batting around as sort of top drivers, wasn't he? But pole position at the moment is a fairly decent whack for him.
Yeah, I mean, he came out the board, did a 34.7 straight out the blocks, and then did a 34.6. So definitely a driver that seems to have got the grips very, very quickly indeed. And you know what? It's a bit of a trait of the real drivers. They tend to come out, they're used to getting them tyres right in the window straight away and turning it on for a fast lap straight away. So that's what we've seen from Dan. In fact, Dan's actually gone faster in Sector 2 again, the fastest Sector 2 out of anyone. So Dan is absolutely flying at the moment. Let's watch him. And he's coming in the pit, so I take that must have been a bad last sector there, not to hook up the rest of that lap. But Dan's definitely going to be a driver to watch. Brad Smith is looking great as well. But yeah, Jordan Brennan sitting there in second place as well. Really unusual to see Jack Mack all the way down in 10th. But let's not forget, he's now championship leader. This is the opposite position to where Brennan was last round. Now Brennan was championship leader. He had the full ballast on. Now it's McIntyre's turn, the full ballast, and you can see that 80 kg is pulling this car back a bit. And I did say the tracks that have a little bit more gradient, the ones that rely on a little bit more top-end speed, that's where the ballast is going to start to hurt them more.
Well, that's interesting though, isn't it? Because obviously, if you're looking at Jack Mack, then you could make the excuse of it must be the ballast. 80 kilograms on board is an awful lot, and it is, especially around a hilly circuit like Laguna Seca or even Brands Hatch next time out. That'll make it very interesting. However, Jordan Brennan, he's only got 10 kilos less. He's got 70, and he's currently sat in second place. Chris Shepherd has gone purple in Sector 1. He's in third at the moment. That's why we're currently having a watch of him. So he's gone quicker than Dan Zelos, Jordan Brennan did overall. in Sector 1. Let's see how he gets on in Sector 2 as he goes over the crest of the hill, dives down into the corkscrew, cuts it very nicely on the left, maybe a touch too much on the left-hand side, but that's not up to me to decide. He gets a 30.7 in Sector 2, and I have to say, it's pretty quick. That is, to be within the 30s and not in the 31s is a very quick lap time. Zelos and Brennan just went through there. They're 2/10 off Chris Shepherd at the moment, and as he rounds out the final corner, let's have a look at Chris Shepherd. He was quickest in practice. How is he going to put it on pole here? Is he going to manage to do it? And he has. Chris Shepherd, top of the times at the moment, a 1:34.4. That's nearly 2/10 of a second ahead of Dan Zelos.
Yeah, so you were saying, you know, it looked a bit on the edge going into the corkscrew there. For me, that was absolutely perfectly legal. The rules are, if you've got more than 3 wheels outside of the track, so that's over that white line or an extension wherever the curbing is, which is that blue and white curb. You know, Chris Shepherd going through there, yes, he was cutting the gravel with the left side of the car, but that right side of the car was fully on them blue and white curbs. So that lap, perfectly legal, executing all of the track limits, 34.4, perfectly valid pole lap there.
Yeah, well done to Chris Shepherd. Jordan Brennan did put in a green at 3rd sector. It wasn't good enough to pull him ahead of Dan Zelos, but they've just gone quicker than their personal best in Sector 2. In Sector 1. It is worth noting, though, it isn't quick enough to beat Chris Shepherd's purple Sector 1. So Zelos and Brennan are going to really have to hook up the 2nd sector, especially to try and have any hope of overtaking Chris Shepherd on this flying lap. Shepherd has gone through again, but he's going slightly slower in Sector 1 and Sector 2. That's still damn quick, though, isn't it, at the end of the day? Dan Zelos, purple Sector 2. So he's gone green Sector 1, purple Sector 2. We're going to have to keep an eye on Dan Zelos as he goes through the penultimate corner here. Dip down and turn it through the right. It will grip and it will pull the car around. Now look for the apex and look for the exit. It's a difficult final corner.
That's
nice and sharp
corner.
on the brakes. And go like the clappers up the hill now to the start-finish line. He's got a lovely draft assistance from the driver ahead. Dan Zelos goes on pole position, a 1:34.4. He's less than a 10th of a second ahead of Chris Shepherd. Jordan Brennan came across the line as well. He's in 3rd. It was an improvement, but not good enough to overtake on Shepherd.
Yeah, what a lap there. You know what? It was one of them laps where you're probably looking at your delta, you can see you're up. He'd had that purple middle sector, you know his delta would have been green. That's when you're going into that last sector, just trying to hang on to any advantage you've got. Some drivers are really good at just turning it off and going, right, I'm not going to look at that, let's just focus on the track and put the lap together. Other drivers really struggle to look up for the track. They end up looking down at the dash, seeing that still got that advantage, and that time just drips away because they're just not concentrating on actually getting the most out of the track ahead of them.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those drivers. I couldn't go without my delta being shown, especially even in real life sort of thing. It is worth noting as well, I was just having a look at the comparison Sector 2s. I remember Chris Shepherd, I think, was a 30.7. Dan Zelos was a 30.4, so he went a full 3/10 of a second. My goodness, he's just scrapping all my words, isn't he? A full 10th quicker than he went before. He's done a 30.3. That is 4/10 of a second quicker than Chris Shepherd can make, and Chris Shepherd's just done an illegal Sector 2. So is Jordan Brennan, actually, in 3rd place. Will Powell. Hey, there you go, Dave. One of your drivers that you were coaching just before this, going into the 135.1s. You said he can do a 1:34. Dan Zelos with a green Sector 3, a 1:34.2 now for Zelos. Just over 2/10 of a second ahead of Chris Shepherd. I'll just finish what I was saying. Will Powell into 6th position. I think Callum Newsham just jumped him, but still doing a mighty fine job at 1:35.1.
Yeah, you know what? This is one of them tracks. I said it's all about the flow, and I think Dan just really has this car hooked up the moment. He's got great feel through his hands from the real car, and I think he's just finding the absolute limit on every corner and not scrubbing too much of that speed on entry with that brake. So fantastic job, Dan Zelos. Currently 2/10 on pole. Interesting to see how the weight's playing out. There's a few drivers with a bit of weight higher up the grid than I thought. Jordan Brennan, he is on 70 kg, but he is on a 25% weight reduction. That's a thing that you are allowed to do. in League of Champions, as is Callum Newsham as well. So 2 drivers with a weight reduction. Yeah, Will Powell, the 7th, I said if he gets his finger out, he can get in them 34s, he'll probably find himself within that top 5. And I'm not far away from that bracket, so Will Powell doing a very good job there as well.
Yeah, here's a headline for you. Jack Mack at the back of the pack. He's in 11th place. He did go slightly quicker. He was in 12th, but he could only lift himself at 1 position. Full 2.5 down on pole position at the moment. Here is Callum Newsham, currently in 6th. Like you said, the 25% ballast reduction can be invaluable, can't it, at a circuit like this? And no wonder Jordan Brenner's managed to hook it up. He went
Andy
green
Carroll.
sector 1. Andy Carroll flying in 4th place, and he's got a green sector 1 and sector 2. Callum Newsham up to 4th. Actually, now Andy Carroll demoted down to 5th. The times are still getting quicker. Normally, the checkered flag has come out. Normally, at the end of the session, we sort of see everything slightly stagnated. But Mick Sutton up to 7th place as well. Andy Dorman down to 8th, and Will Powell down to 9th. Mick Sutton absolutely flying. What other drivers are we looking at now? Andy Dorman back up to 5th place. This is going to be a hectic grid for tonight. Pretty much 8 drivers in the 34s, and we thought that was going to be a damn good showing for the top 3 in the 34s. So this is really quite spectacular. I'm very much looking forward to this now.
Yeah, I think Jack Mack might... Oh, he doesn't. I thought he was going to improve his time there. So Jack Mack, the big news is the championship leader just outside of that top 10. And I tell you what, the competition to get into that top 10, Jack, you'll agree, Brad Smith just behind him in 12th place, Scott Bugner in 10th. That's not drivers that aren't going to let him through easy or might, think, that's Jack Mack behind me. These are drivers that are going to want to make sure they get that reverse grid. So I tell you what, that is going to be a battle that we need to keep our eye on in race 1.
It will be. And I have to say, here comes Ryan Elliott. Now, how's Ryan doing? He's got a green sector 2. His first sector wasn't too hot, but he comes across the line, and it's hot enough to go into P3. A green sector 3. And a green sector 2 was good enough to get him into those top 3 positions. Callum Newsham coming across the line now. He had a green sector 2. His sector 3 isn't an improvement. He stays in 5th place. Ryan Elliott coming in strong right at the end, but nobody was quite as strong as the orange mini of Dan Zelos. Dave, go and have a word.
Yeah, we'll jump down to Dan and talking about putting a lap together. It wasn't just one, it was about 4 laps you put together there. You've just got super flow on this car, in this track. I take it was just clicking, and it was a real nice flow for you out there.
To be honest, you're right. I mean, those 4 laps I did in that qualifying session were the quickest I've done all week, so everything just kind of came together in that one. Yeah, I was really pleased with that lap.
Take it, you find that it's just a case of trying to keep the car going as fast as it can. I know that sounds daft, but it's making sure you roll off them brakes to carry the speed through the corners and not kill that car. I mean, fantastic lap. This is going to really help you going into the race as well to keep that momentum, whereas the other drivers might trip over themselves a bit.
Possibly. I'm sure my teammates Ryan and Chris won't make life easy for me, and Jordan looks quick too, so no, I'm looking forward to a good battle, and hopefully we can bag some more points for the championship.
Yeah, fantastic effort there, Dan. A convincing pole lap. I'll let you get your head down, ready for the start of the race, and hopefully we're speaking after race 1.
I hope so too.
Cheers.
Yeah, Dave chatting to Dan Zelos there, our pole position man. I'm actually just looking at the championship going into this round, Dave, and well, Dan Zelos is on 49. Jack Mack's only on 59, There's only a 10-point difference, and the way it's lining up, you could see a huge shift in points going into Brands Hatch at the moment, couldn't you?
I'm telling you now, this is on for one hell of a shootout. This is where's Dan Zelos? He's sitting 7th or 6th place, 10 points away from first place. So this is proven that it's going to be super, super close going into the finale race. There you go there, look. Dan Zelos on 6th place on 49 points. But even the likes of Chris Shepherd, look at the pace he's got on 43. So, I mean, 16 points away from Jack Mack, who's in P1. This is going to end up going into Brands Hatch with probably 6 or 7 drivers all fighting for that overall victory.
Yeah, but before we get too excited, we must go and have a quick look at what the drivers are up for winning in Driver of the Day, an AOC gaming headset. Take a look at this. And in about 90 seconds time, Dave, we're about to see potentially one of the most exciting races, exciting evenings races, probably, race 1 and race 2, that we've seen for a long while. And that's saying something, because the first 2 rounds of the minis have been spectacular. So this is a lot to live up to, but it could surpass it by the way it's lining up.
I mean, the way this is lining up, I cannot wait. And actually feel my chest is actually pounding, even though I'm not actually in the driving seat racing myself. I tell you what, to be in a commentary position watching this, where as many drivers are in the fight for the title as they are, and such a jumbled grid every time. That's 3 different pole sitters that we've had. And also, looking down the grid, we've got Andy Carroll, Mick Sutton, Andy Dorman there, all in that midsection. Will Powell in 9th. So 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, all ahead of some seriously top-end championship contenders. So I tell you what, it's all to play for. Andy Dorman here could go from bottom of the table all the way at the top.
Yeah, well, another driver we haven't really mentioned that much is in 10th place, Scott Buchner as well. He's 3rd in the championship at the moment.
Yeah.
He'll be hoping to, although he is working on a welded sim apparently. 10 seconds to go. So Dan Zelos in 1st place, Chris Shepherd in 2nd, Ryan Elliott in 3rd just about. But the lights are on, the engine notes rise here at Laguna Seca, and for the first time this evening, we're going racing here for the Mini JCW in the League of Champions. It's a good start, I think, from Dan Zelos. Everybody getting a relatively clean start, actually. Chris Shepherd trying to dive in. Uphill, it's a long run, even going up the hill. And look at this, Chris Shepherd with the lack of weight on board is really coming across and trying to challenge for the race lead on Dan Zelos, who's put his car in the perfect position. A double apex left-hander to start the lap means that Zelos gets the position done and dusted, still in the 1st place. We're looking back here at Brad Smith, a little bit of a battle in the rear end. Will Powell getting his elbows out with Andy Carroll, and Mick Sutton falling behind slightly as well. He has to make sure that he doesn't make contact with any of the other drivers. Paul Laramie and Kenny Press are well further back, unfortunately, as Scott Bugner has gone down to 12th place. Jack McIntyre has overtaken him, but it looks like Dan Zelos is still in the race lead from Chris Shepherd and Ryan Elliott as Bugner goes past McIntyre. No, McIntyre's legally ahead of the Bugner, and it's going to get very tight into the left-hander. Remember what you said, Dave, you have to get the run through here going up to Corkscrew. It's not a 2x2 corner as the drivers go wide. McIntyre went very wide. Here comes Bugner on Powell and McIntyre. Bugner gets through. Powell still ahead of McIntyre into the Corkscrew. McIntyre, is he going to go for the late lunge? I think he just about held off.
He did. Powell just staying ahead of McIntyre there, but exactly what I was saying, you saw evidently how much time difference there was there between the 2 drivers. And oh, look at this, Dan Zelos down to 2nd. Chris Shepherd has managed to get through past Dan Zelos, so we didn't see where that happened on track. And imagine that must have happened on the run up towards the Corkscrew, I'm going to guess. So yeah, interesting change. As Dan said, these 3 top drivers, all teammates, but they're not going to make things easy. We saw how hard Ryan Elliott and Chris Shepherd were both battling last time out, so these drivers are really battling hard.
Yeah, if you're looking at the table at the moment, Chris Shepherd, Dan Zelos, Ryan Elliott. Chris Shepherd is 10 kilos on board. Ryan Elliott, I believe, has, oh my days, having to do some maths, 40 kilograms on board as well. And Dan Zelos, I think, only has 30. So it's going to be very close. These are all sort of the lower end of the ballast. Jordan Brennan in 4th place at the moment. Obviously, he's got the most amount of ballast on board originally, but he took 25% off, so he's going to be in there in the mix as well. Callum Newsham, however, just gets past Jordan Brennan as I was looking at my championship standings. And I tell you what, if Newsham holds on to this, it'll be a hell of a move, and he has held on to it. He's gone around the outside. Stunning driving there by Callum Newsham as we go on board with Jordan Brennan going up the hill in towards the Corkscrew. You can see the top 3 just ahead, pulling away slightly. Remember, this is an individual championship, but the fact that they are teammates, the front 3, will probably mean that they try and break away a little bit and then sort it amongst themselves towards the end of the race.
Yeah, you know what, you're saying that, but for me, last time out in Nürburgring, there was no team rules there, was there? It was all drivers, hands on deck, driving for themselves. I tell you what, Andy Carroll just looking maybe a little bit scrappy this past lap, getting a little bit wide. And as you said before, just running that little bit wide in the gravel, losing that momentum is just allowing Will to start to get on the back there of Andy Carroll, as well as McIntyre. McIntyre's close to the back of Will Powell as well. Scott Buchner, I believe, must have had a little excursion off track, hence why he's dropped 2 more positions. I tell you what, Jordan's got to be careful here. He's starting to battle a little bit with Newsham. Newsham seems to be jumping around a little bit with the internet lag, and Dorman isn't far off the back of this pack at all.
Yeah, we're not having anybody with major issues of ping just yet in the server, although we will keep an eye on it. Apparently Andy Dorman was having a little bit of trouble in qualifying, but so far in the race he's been absolutely fine, and he's been fine on pace as well. He'll be trying to catch up to these two, and if he can get his nose in the mix of this, Dorman has been consistently in the minis very quick, hasn't he? I think he's put it on the front row. I think he put it on 3rd place in the first round, 3rd place in the second round of qualifying as well. He hasn't shown the pace here at Laguna Seca, but he'll be very much hoping to move forward and try and improve upon his racecraft. Here goes Ryan Elliott on Dan Zelos around the outside of the corkscrew. It's ambitious, it's ludicrous, and it's not quite worked. Callum Newsham has caught back up.
Yeah, that move was never on. It was never going to work to try and go around the outside of the corkscrew. And all that's actually done is meant Newsham now is right on the tail of Elliott. Now, Newsham, we've seen him before. He is a hard racer. He knows where to find the moves, knows where to generate them gaps. Oh, and Will Powell's ran a little bit wide there. And I tell you what, this is the battle for 10th place, that reverse grid race. So this is the one that really does matter.
Yeah, but so does this one, taking the points away from the first race as it stands. And it's Ryan Elliott and Dan Zelos still going side by side. Callum Newsham will be wondering where on earth to put his car. I would wager to go on the inside and try and get behind Dan Zelos, because Ryan Elliott is going to do nothing but be forced wide. I think there was a little tap there by Newsham on Zelos, Elliott. But the easy thing about front wheel drive is the fact that if you get a little bit of a tank slapper, just put your foot down and the front wheels will correct the rear wheels. It's always quite nice. So that means they all carry on as they were. Chris Shepherd is in the lead by 1.2 seconds. As who's that? Is Dorman on Newsham. And Andy Carroll, I believe, who's gone off here. Newsham's gone off. I didn't quite see that. I was looking at my timing tower. What happened, Dave?
Yeah, Newsham and Brennan both had to come together. I don't know whether that was internet connection there, maybe slightly. But yeah, both drivers now dropping significantly back. And look, Newsham now sitting on reverse grid pole, so really, really interesting. I didn't see exactly what happened, but that's obviously promoted Dorman there up to 4th place. Andy Carroll up to 5th, and McIntyre, which, let's face it, wasn't looking like the best round for him, has actually found himself in 6th position.
Yeah, he's doing very well. He's taking advantage, isn't he? Which is exactly what he needs to do. With all that weight on board, 80 kilograms, all he can hope for is just making the best of a bad situation. Callum Newsham and Jordan Brennan, well, they're still fighting, but they're now fighting for potentially reverse grid pole or reverse grid front row. Jordan Brennan goes slightly wide. Maybe he's trying to get past Powell. Maybe he's trying to overdrive now. Because that's a very common thing, isn't it, Dave? As soon as you go off, you almost sort of lose your head. You try and overdrive to try and make up for the mistakes.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, your head's not exactly where, you know, in the settled state it was before you were racing, but also you end up with gravel on your tyres, and then you brake in the same place that you braked on the previous lap, but obviously your tyres aren't quite there as much as they were, you know, on the previous lap, and you end up overdriving it and then thinking I'm not in a rhythm, when really it's just because your tyres aren't in that window. So yeah, it makes it very, very difficult to try and gauge when you can push and how soon after an excursion onto the gravel you can get that 100% grip back and then fight back for position. But sometimes you just got to let it go. And Will Powell with a disconnection there, ending up going backwards, and that's a huge crash into the wall. Hopefully he can get that car back going again, and that's a nice safe, I was going to say safe rejoin, but it was indeed. So Kenny presses up into 12th, Will Powell down to 13th, so we're not sure what happened there, but that appeared to be Will Powell losing connection and then ended up sideways going into the wall. Very, very hard indeed.
Yeah, essentially your guess is as good as ours on what happened to Will Powell then. I mean, we think it's going to be a connection issue. I can't actually see any connection issues. We can normally see the ping. I can tell you Andy Dorman might well be in for a bit of a shaky lag session. However, he's pretty much in the middle of nowhere at the moment. He's got about as much space as anybody on circuit. So hopefully nothing comes of if he lags in and out a little bit and maybe jumps around the track. With no one around him, he won't jump into anyone, so that's the good thing. Andy Carroll, he's gone purple in Sector 3. Fair play to Andy Carroll, as Jordan Brennan still attacking further up as well, trying to do that recovery drive. Andy Carroll, purple Sector 3. Dan Zelos, purple Sector 2. So other drivers, although we have spaced out a little bit, are trying to recover. Chris Shepherd was a second and a half in the lead at this race at one point. Dan Zelos has brought it back down to about a second. In fact, actually, I think he's just made a small mistake because Chris Shepherd is actually elongating that gap yet again. Jordan Brennan trying to catch Scott Buchner. Scott with... well, he hasn't taken any reduction of weight, has he? So he has still got 60 kilograms of ballast on board. Maybe that's why he's struggling here today, Dave.
Yeah, maybe slightly. So Brennan is actually in the slightly lighter car. But actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Brennan's got a little bit of damage now, looking at the few collisions that he's had. Scott Buchner, what a recovery drive this has been. I mean, I think he was down in 12th place at one point, so he's managed to pull it back and he's sitting now in 7th. But what a move this is. Brennan just getting the underlap and the move up the inside. There's not much Scott Buchner to do about that. What a move there. Brennan, a brilliantly calculated move. Nice and clean, exactly what we like to see.
I think that was pretty much showing you what the difference in the weight is there, isn't it? Even though it's only a small difference in weight that Brennan has, he's just managed to get one. He maybe had a better run through the corner before, but still, that power to get back up the to circuit is real, and get on the inside was really apparent there. Dan Zelos will be hoping to perform such similar feats here to try and get past Chris Shepherd and retake the race lead. Although he is in second place, it is still an absolutely monumental haul of points that he'll take away from other championship contenders, including the likes of Ryan Elliott. But Jack Mack still, although Jack Mack has done well in 6th position, Dan is going to take a big chunk of points away. And remember, we mentioned just before the race, there is only 10 points between them, so keep an eye on them. Scott Buchner, I think he's chasing down Jordan Brennan still here. He's going to try and retake 7th position. Jack Mack in 6th. In a bit of no man's land at the moment. Callum Newsham, not really within touching distance, although this is touching distance, isn't it, between Dan Zelos and Chris Shepherd. Dan Zelos maybe trying to get a slight undercut as they go up the hill. He's got a power advantage. Look at the speed he's got on Chris Shepherd here, but he doesn't go for the dive at the inside. In fact, if anything, Dave, I think he went for a little push to pass. Andy Carroll got ahead of Andy Dorman as well. Scott Buchner's got ahead of Jordan Brennan.
Oh, yeah, Andy Carroll there missing his braking point and actually having to go straight across. But as you see, sometimes I would say, you know, that's a bit of an unfair advantage. But if you actually watch, Andy Carroll's exit there was significantly reduced because the car basically bounces when it hits the floor. So the left side of the track, ready for the left-hander, when actually the line is you want to be over to the right. So for all it looks like, you know, that's a huge advantage again because you just cut across the track. I can honestly say by the end of them 2 corners, it's faster to just do the standard line. So that was just a genuine mistake there by Andy Carroll. Actually, there it is on a backup as well. On the live timing on the sectors, you know, that was the slowest lap and an invalid lap. So, yeah, brilliant progress by Andy Carroll. Phenomenal drive so far. Getting ahead of Andy Dorman, who, let's face it, has been, as you said before, such a strong mini challenge, mini JCW contender here. And Andy Carroll has managed to get past him.
Yeah, careful, because Mini Challenge is another series that is starting in November, isn't it? The official Mini Challenge. So these guys will probably be entering. The majority of these drivers will be trying to get involved in that championship, and you can see that live here on VRRC as well. Very much looking forward to that. But we've obviously got the League of Champions to be finishing off, and we're getting to the sharp end. This is setting up a really nice race too. Remember, the race 2 is a top 10 reverse grid. So at the moment, you've got Brad Smith currently in 10th place. He'll be on pole. 2nd will be Callum Newsham. 3rd will be Jordan Brennan. Scott Buchner will be 4th. So those drivers, 5th will be Jack McIntyre, I think. So those drivers will have another opportunity to bag some good points and hold off maybe the quicker drivers that have pulled away with this race somewhat. Chris Shepherd and obviously Dan Zelos. That battle for the race lead all the way down to 0.4 of a second. We're obviously keeping an eye on Jordan Brennan and Scott Buchner at the moment as well, but we will shoot back to the race leaders if anything is needed to be seen. In fact, there we go as they come across the start-finish line. just about 7 minutes to go. Chris Shepherd holding on to that race lead from Dan Zelos. And as you said before, Dave, there is no love lost here. There will be no team orders. You could be forgiven to thinking that these guys aren't even on a team together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd be racing maybe quite as hard if they weren't on the same team. But to be fair, both drivers here are incredibly fair drivers anyway. So I don't think we would see anything drastic in that sense of the matter. Will Powell getting up to 11th. Has that been a disconnection there from...
Yeah, Mick Sutton.
Yeah, Mick Sutton with a disconnection. So that's really unfortunate to see Mick Sutton drop out of the race. We never want to see a driver go out in that manner. But Dan Zelos keeping good, consistent pressure on Chris Shepherd, lapping almost bang on every lap, the same lap time as Chris Shepherd. But now I feel like he's starting to pick that pace up. He's within half a second of Chris, and he seems like he's got a bit more pace in the car, maybe a little bit more tyre. He's got less weight in the car. All these factors are going to help, and I think we'll probably see a lunge going on towards the end of the race. And we nearly saw one just there. Jordan Brennan looking like he was going to have a move on Scott Buchner going into the corkscrew, but you can see Scott Buchner ended up on that outside line, and look at the apex speed difference. Brennan having to back out there because he caught Buchner too quick. But I tell you what, Brennan is looking racy, but Buchner must also be racy because he managed to get past Brennan, even though Brennan was in the other position.
I mean, in theory, Callum Newsham should have got the best run through there, shouldn't he? But actually, he's just as far behind as he ever was. So Buchner and Brennan, they will hold each other up if they carry on doing these things. As Brennan looks to the outside, Buchner looking defensive. No, Buchner comes with a racing line. He's confident in the space. He's confident of his depth perception in the rearview mirrors, because that's, in my opinion, in the virtual world, actually, Dave, you probably don't even think about it. But depth perception on a sim in the rearview mirrors when you're looking back is a very difficult feat, in my opinion, because obviously in real life you have that sort of natural depth perception, especially if you drive just generally on the road looking in your mirrors. But as soon as you look in the mirrors on a sim, you're never quite sure really how close the other drivers are, so you have to have ultimate trust that they're not going to turn into you, you're not going to turn into them. And when you can't quite get how far away another driver is, it's difficult to gauge.
Yeah, that is exactly true, but we also use an app called Helicorsa, which basically is a radar system that comes up on the screen when a driver gets in. I think it's normally about within a 2-car radius of the car, and it basically loads up from a top-end view and loads the cars around the car on like a radar system. So that we use that in a good gauge to judge whether the cutback is on or how close a car is behind, and that's also a given. We also use real time, which tells you how far ahead or behind the car is actively. So Dan will be probably looking at that, seeing that he's gaining maybe 0.1 of a second onto the back of Chris, and that's how he'll know he'll have that slight overspeed advantage. So it's bits of data like that you can really use to really calculate your strategy going forward into the race. So I bet Dan's probably just sitting behind Shepherd here thinking, right, which corners am I faster on? Which one have I been gaining consistently on? And I've got to admit, I think he's been consistently better through this next left-hander. Hopefully I don't give him a commentator's curse here, but every time we get up to this left-hander, he seems like he's in an opportunity to try and go up the inside, going towards this next left-hander.
Well, if he spins off, then we know who to blame, Dave, don't we? He'll come knocking, I'm sure. But you're right. I think, to be fair, I think you're right. He just sends it, and that's a huge mistake by Chris Shepherd. A lot of speed. Dan Zelos had to actually come off the throttle, I think. Go to the right. He's going to be on the outside for the corkscrew, but I think he may well have his car fully ahead. He's late on the brakes. So is Chris Shepherd. They both go deep. But Zelos ignores the right-hand corner, doesn't he? And he stays ahead of Chris Shepherd for now. They're going side by side through the penultimate couple of corners. Through the left, there's good racing room and racing respect here by the both of them. Zelos in the race lead at the moment. He keeps to the inside of the slower right-hander. That means he's going to have the inside potentially for the final corner. 2.5 minutes to go, and this has all of a sudden erupted into a fantastic battle for the race lead. Zelos holds on, but there's still a bit of door banging. I said there was no love lost between these two, in brackets, teammates. But it's brilliant to see from our perspective. Hopefully it doesn't all end in tears, although Ryan Elliott will probably be secretly hoping that. Dan Zelos, though, into the first corner on that defensive line. Chris Shepherd looking for that cutback, and he's all over the gravel, trying to get that double left hand, that later apex. Zelos going for the right hand. Oh, he switched out wide early. I thought that was going to be leaving the door open completely for Shepherd. He misses the apex as Zelos. Maybe he thought the same. Set too much speed into the corner as they go through the right-hander. Zelos blending on the brakes, and he's got that race lead for now.
He has, but Chris Shepherd look already in the tour with the inside line up the inside of Zelos. I tell you what, Jack, this is developing into such a fantastic last 2 minute sprint here. Zelos now with the inside line into the blindest corner on the track. This is going to end up a bit risky. Oh, that's a sensible decision there. Chris Shepherd, did you see, just backed out of that. He knew that was going to be ending up badly if them drivers there clipped that inside curb. He's backed off maybe a little bit too much for my liking. Zelos seems to have the advantage now. He's pulled away quite a lot. But now look behind as well. Jordan Brennan putting even more pressure onto the back of Scott Buchner. I tell you what, this is a brilliant battle. And even though they've been battling, look who's up ahead. They've managed to catch Jack McIntyre.
They have indeed, yeah. And I think Brennan's going to probably be desperate to try and get past Buchner. He's basically looked at that rear view for about half the race, hasn't he? With 50 seconds to go. Well, Zelos is about to take the start-finish line, but up the inside goes Brennan on Buchner. A nice late move. Buchner just didn't seem to have any interest in defending that one. Maybe he wants to go on to the final lap in second place in this little battle, but that's a rather risky move as Brennan gets past Buchner. Bugner still ahead of Newsham, and you're right, Jack McIntyre in 6th position. Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll. Look at Andy Carroll, he's in 4th place, and he's going very quickly indeed. Absolutely flying today, Dave.
Yeah. Already marked down as a possible driver of the day for me.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I've seen it now. Setting fastest Sector 1 and Sector 3. Doing a 34.7 in the race with race fuel on board. Andy is absolutely flying. What an impressive drive this has been today for him.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned driver of the day, but very quickly to mention it in case things all kick off, because they're actually, well, I'll ignore it for now, because Callum Newsham wants to upset Scott Buchner even more here by going past him for 8th position. Newsham couldn't get that cutback like we saw Zelos doing before into the quick left-hander, but maybe he's just going to try and nail left-hander, but he had to have a little correction there. Maybe that's just hurt his run up the hill against Buchner, who has an awful lot more weight on board, though, than Newsham. Even so, you couldn't really tell much of a difference. Zelos is about to come round the penultimate set of corners here, so this is going to be the final lap. We're going to have the checkered flag. Newsham will be desperate to get past Buchner, but I don't think it's going to happen. But one thing that has happened is Dan Zelos is going to win this race here, the first race of the Mini JCW here at Laguna Seca, and what a race it was. Chris Shepherd comes across the line in 2nd place. I'm sure he's probably never happy losing, but he'll be pretty pleased about such an amazing race to be involved in there to come 2nd. Jack McIntyre recovered to 6th position with Jordan Brennan in 7th. Buchner finished in 8th, Newsham in 9th. And we haven't forgotten Brad Smith, who will be on pole position for race number 2. Kenny Press was in 11th. And Paul Laramie all the way down in 12th position. Will Powell, I think, is off the circuit somewhere. There he is. Not sure why, but he's off the circuit. However, Dan Zelos takes the race victory, Dave, and that was a hell of a drive from both the top 2. Well, from everyone as well, but the top 2 were certainly putting on a show.
Yeah, for me that was one of them races where there was such great racing respect, wasn't there, going throughout it. That was a hard battle. I knew it was going to come down to them end few seconds or end few minutes, and it was really going to intensify, and sure it did. But for me, that was exactly what Dan Zelos probably was thinking. You know, he let the battle develop a little bit at the start of the race. Chris Shepherd got ahead. He was like, right, fair enough, we're not going to battle. We're going to continue to pull away. And then in the final stage, when we've got our own gap, then we can battle, and then I can think about getting you back.
Yeah, so we'll have a chat to our top 3 finishers in a couple of minutes. But remember, we got the reverse grid coming up sooner than you think as well. So you definitely don't want to be going anywhere. Top 10 reverse grid. We're going to have the likes of Zelos, Shepherd, Elliott coming back through the pack. We're going to have Andy Carroll and Andy Dorman trying to follow suit. We're going to have Newsham, Buchner, Brennan and McIntyre holding them all off, as well as Brad Smith. Remember, it's sounding tasty tonight. But Dave, you can have a chat to our podium sitters.
Will do indeed, and we'll jump straight down to our P3 finisher. Ryan, it's looking good for as far as a team podium's concerned, but just not quite enough to hang on to them lead two. A little bit that down to obviously the weight and sort of the ethos of this track, if you like, with having to carry as much speed with the weight on board. Fantastic podium effort.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed with that at all, to be honest, Dave. You know, Chris has got 30 kg less than me, Dan's got 10 less, but I do think I could have kept with him a little bit better. Obviously, there was a bit of contact. Me and Dan were trying to have, you know, some good clean racing. I just got smashed into from the back, which sort of put me on the back foot from then onwards. I sort of lost the toe with Dan. But you could see it at the end. All it took was them two to start scrapping, and I was already right back with them. But P3 is exactly what I needed. I beat the important people there, like your Jack Mack, Brennan, Scott and Callum. So all that I need in this one is to just get in the mix, and I think they might probably hold us off in this one, but the closer I can get to them, the better.
Well, congrats there, Ryan, and it's all to do again in race 2. Let's see if you can get through the pack and get past their main rivals.
Yes, Mom, thank you.
I'll move on our P2 finisher. I mean, only just, Chris. It was a long, hard battle that came down to a final sprint, but just not quite enough to hang on to Dan Zelos, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I saw when Dan dropped back, he put in a stonker lap and took the purple. So there on, even though I was in the lead, I was just thinking, I need that point. So I was pushing every corner and ultimately running wide here and there, smashed the sausage curb, which got Dan pretty much in front, but I managed to late break into the downhill chicane, the corkscrew, is it? And we went side by side for a few corners, which was great. But you can see how much time you can lose just by going side by side for a few corners. I mean, Ryan was straight back onto us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, Dan, he just had better change of direction in the slow speed, I noticed. So something I need to just work on, I guess.
And obviously, we've got to start thinking about the actual championship position at the end here. You must be thinking that this is going to be incredibly tight going into the last race. And who knows who's going to be where.
Well, that's right. I mean, I knew that going into this race I had less weight. So, I mean, disappointing I couldn't get the win. But, yeah, I need 2 good results to be anywhere near any of the top 3 in the championship. So let's see how race 2 goes. Yeah,
well, let's see how you get on exactly. Fantastic effort there, Chris. And let's see how we get on in race 2.
Cheers, mate.
I'll move forward on our P1 finisher. I've got to admit, we had our doubts at the start of the race, getting overtaken relatively early. But I take it was, we'll give you credit, it was all in your strategy for a last-minute sprint, and then you use your pace to get past. Something like that, Dan?
That's a good racing driver excuse. I'll use that one. Yeah, I struggled to get in the groove, as say, at the start, and get Chris going by me was yeah, it benefited me in the long run. I think just having someone to chase, got back in my rhythm, and obviously I was able to jump on his mistake.
Yeah, I mean, you've been obviously practicing quite a lot with the weight out the car. How much does the additional fuel load really change the balance of the car around here? Does it make a big difference through the fast speed corners? And do you notice much of a difference in the car?
Yeah, a bit of a difference, especially in the brake zones. You're braking that a little bit earlier. That might have caught me out a little bit at the start of the season, but now getting used to it. And just through the fast stuff, there's a lot of flowing corners here where you're in quite low rev range. So you've really got to try and keep up momentum going when you've got the fuel on board. That is difficult to do. But yeah, I think me and Chris did a brilliant job there. And we had a brilliant race towards the end, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was. It was a fantastic race to watch. I'll let you get your head down with a minute to go. Huge congratulations on making it a pole and a P1 in race 1. And good luck going forward into race 2.
Thanks, mate.
And that was Dave Marshall speaking to our podium sitters for race number 1. And like he just said, we haven't got long before we go into the next race. Dan Zelos is on top of the championship points now, 71 points, 2 points ahead of Jack McIntyre, followed by Jordan Brennan in 66, Ryan Elliott and Scott Buchner, the top 5. But we'll keep you updated with that throughout the rest of the evening. But huge news, they're jumping from 6th up to 1st place. Dan Zelos in just 1 race shows how close this is. And we're looking at Chris Shepherd. He's in 6th place now. So as the lights come on, the engine notes rise, keep an eye on the championship as well. Brad Smith will be on pole position. And as the engine notes rise, the lights are coming on and they will be out for the second time here in the Mini JCW League of Champions. A good start by Brad Smith, a pretty much good start by everyone, including, I think, Andy Carroll in the background there as well. Going really strong into a nice trade. Brad Smith, Callum Newsham, Scott Buchner and Jordan Brennan with what looks like Jack McIntyre trying to hunt up the inside as well. That's a huge lunge up the inside, almost by Scott Buchner. Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll, the two Andys, are going side by side. That's not a hot fuzz reference. That is actually just who we got out on here on the circuit. McIntyre and Brennan swapping positions as well. Brennan going into 4th place. McIntyre staying in 5th for now. Brad Smith leading the way still, but Callum Newsham is looking hopeful to get past.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, a very, very clean start there from all the drivers. But I tell you what, who's that? There was a driver who went off. Brad Smith went off right. And how the world did he manage to rejoin the track without any significant damage there and just slot straight by in? What a fantastic effort to rejoin the track and not really lose any positions.
Yeah, fair play to him. Newsham in the race lead, then Bugner, Brennan, McIntyre, and then Brad Smith. But Andy Dorman wants to change that around yet again, going up the inside. Paul Laramie's fallen behind Will Powell. Again, getting a little bit beaten up towards the back end of the grid. And here goes Dorman on Smith. Smith, as you know, keeps that position for now, so he keeps that top 5. However, I think Brennan, Bugner, and Newsham have really pulled away somewhat. Elliott, Shepherd, Carroll, and Zelos are pretty much as they were. Dorman, I think Elliott and Shepherd have got past Carroll. Zelos hasn't made any progress. He's still in 10th place, and he'll be hoping to either pick off some drivers or, knowing the reverse grid, take advantage of some maybe ill-advised driving and moves, as Carroll is still looking to try and get past Adam Shepherd. Zelos goes past Carroll because of the failed attempt on Shepherd, so Zelos up the inside. He'll have that race position, I believe. He'll have that 9th place going into turn number 1 without too many problems. It's a double left-hander. He's put Carroll nicely on the outside there. Textbook move into the first corner.
It will, and this is where I would say Carroll really needs to just focus on ahead, see Dan Zelos' lines and try and follow him through. Dorman obviously starting next to him on the grid, and there's Brad Smith off the road again. Doing very, very lucky not to catch the back of Andy Dorman there, so that was very, very close. Brad just needs to watch that a little bit on them trap rejoins. But is that Chris Shepherd? Chris Shepherd under attack already by Dan Zelos. I tell you what, that's a great move up the hill. This is going to really hinder them regarding the run. And I tell you what, look at Will Powell. Got the run on all 4 cars, but he's got nowhere to go.
Chris Shepherd stays ahead of Dan Zelos for now. Remember, although Powell going off there, he was going side by side with Elliott. Well, 2 don't go into that corner, do they, Dave? We mentioned that quite a few times already, and Will Powell is showing exactly why. So, we mentioned Dan Zelos is in the lead of the championship. Oh, that's a huge slide, and off the outside goes Paul Laramie. That's how dangerous the corkscrew really can be, and it just goes to show how difficult and how well driven it is by pretty much all these drivers. That's the first big mistake we've seen there, and normally if you go into a public lobby, no one even gets past the corner, to be honest. It's absolutely mental. Dan Zelos, though, he's in the lead of the championship, isn't he? But the weight doesn't change. He still has the same amount of weight that he started this evening's racing with, so he'll be hoping to really push forward. As is Scott Bugner. He finished ahead of Callum Newsham, in the first race. And look at this, a huge late break trying to carry momentum, man. It's always going to be very difficult. You're fighting a losing battle on the outside there. But Bugner showing his intention.
He is indeed, and yeah, I think that was just a case of Callum Newsham there with a little bit of contact, but that was just because he clipped that inside curb, got a little bounce, and Bugner was on the outside, so nothing obviously intentional there. I tell you what, Callum Newsham is under some serious pressure here. I think Bugner looks like he's got a little bit better front end on that car. He's got the front end pointing a little bit better, and that's when you've got to be worried as a driver looking in your mirror. If you know he can put his car in places you can't, that's when it's game on.
Callum Newsham. Chris Shepherd going past Brad Smith, then our pole position man slipping down the order. Not helped, of course, by the fact that he had that off in the first lap. Dan Zelos trying to make it 2 positions down, but he's going to get held up at the corkscrew. That is absolutely crucial. Chris Shepherd will be beaming from ear to ear the longer that Brad Smith can keep Dan Zelos behind him. Remember, they're obviously fighting their own championship battles here. Zelos has made good progress. Shepherd needs to make equally good progress realistically on this lap. How's Jack McIntyre doing? He was in the lead of this championship, now second in the championship. However, he's fourth on the road. He may be losing points to Newsham, Bugner and Brennan, all of which will hurt him a little bit, but realistically, he just needs to keep an eye on Dan Zelos. And at the moment, McIntyre is on course for retaking this championship lead. Dorman is fancying to upset the apple cart here, though, because he's trying to get past the Zancho Simsport driver.
He is, and I tell you what, Dorman is the guy on the move at the moment. Dorman with some really good pace in that car, just seeming really racy. Remember, you know, Andy Dorman, the bottom of the ballast scenario, so he's there on 10 kg. Meanwhile, Jack McIntyre ahead with the maximum kg of 80. So actually, Andy Dorman with a significantly faster car, but it's how he's going to plan it, how he's going to get ahead, and this is one of the key places. If he can get a good drive up here and through the next corner, that gradient is really going to hurt Jack's car and could give Dorman a real good chance. And actually, Jack with a little mistake there, catching that inside curb, and Dorman's going to pull alongside. Is he going to be late on the brakes? Go on, Dorman, be late on the brakes and risk it for a biscuit, should we say. But I tell you what, Jack's commitment through there was absolutely flat out, and you can see he's opened about 4 car lengths on Dorman there. Let's just watch that gap and see whether Dorman can use that outright speed to pull that gap back, and that'll give us a sense really of how much Dorman's got left in that tank.
2 major movers while we've been looking at this battle, one of which was Dan Zelos was trying it on Brad Smith, but he's now fallen behind Ryan Elliott. I can only assume he went off the track trying to overtake Brad Smith. And we've had a change for the race lead. Scott Bugner has got into the race lead with Callum Newsham now in second place. Jordan Brennan in third still, as we keep an eye. I just want to have a quick look. Yeah, Jack McIntyre is still ahead of Andy Dorman, but this is pretty huge for a race lead because Scott Bugner, well, he's in 5th place in the championship now. However, he is only 10 points behind Dan Zelos. And remember how that worked out in race 1. Dan Zelos was 10 behind Jack Mack, and he jumped him in the championship. What I can tell you is the fact that these guys, the top 5 separated by 10 points, the top 6 separated by 11. As long as everybody keeps it clean and we have a good fight for the rest of this race without anybody falling off the circuit, Dan Zelos going past Ryan Elliott there, who did momentarily fall off the circuit, it sets up Brands Hatch to be an absolute peach. And Brands Hatch GP, one of the hardest circuits in motorsport. Doesn't matter how many times you drive it, every corner is very different to every other corner on every other track in the world. So it's still going to take some specialists to try and get through. Callum Newsham has got through on the race leader as we're looking at Andy Dorman trying to get past Jack McIntyre. It didn't happen, but a move for the race lead did happen. Callum Newsham ahead of Scott Bugner.
Yeah, some big moves going on, and I tell you what, this is a bit more like what Nürburgring was like. Every lap, lead changes up and down the grid, but I tell you what, the race in respect is still been fantastic, a great standard. Actually, Andy Dorman getting overtaken, and I tell you what, this is going to end up in a 3-way battle down to turn 1, I believe. Chris Shepherd finding his way up the inside of Jack Mack. That's 2 for 1, so Dorman's being mugged off there a little bit. Jack McIntyre's maybe struggling with the weight a little bit now. Is this going to give the chance Dorman needed to try and find his way past? Because he's got the pace, he needs to get past and follow Shepherd through.
Dorman going for that late apex. That was a big door he left open there for Brad Smith, but Smith didn't manage to get through it. However, this is going to be a bigger door as he sends for the Tokyo Drift, and he gets nudged off by Smith. I don't think he can really have any complaints about that because Smith was going for a racing line, and I don't think Dorman was really in full control of that slide. He did manage to get it all back together. Was in a bit of a dangerous place on the circuit when he did. Ryan Elliott's not got past Dorman, but Dorman's tyres will be absolutely on fire, and there may well be a bit of damage there. So Dan Zelos gets gifted a place as well. He's still behind Brad Smith, but Chris Shepherd, crucially, is up to 4th place McIntyre. That is going to be potentially huge for the championship. Again, it just keeps getting thrown up. We've only had 9 minutes in this race day so far, and it's just every single corner has pretty much provided us with a shake-up.
It has. I mean, 9 minutes and probably 9 championship standing changes as well. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to try and obviously work out the championship point while this race is ongoing because, as you said, it's almost changing corner to corner, never mind lap for lap. But Dan Zelos down there in 7th place, I'm trying to work it out in my head, but for me, it's looking like it'll be very close between Shepherd and Bugner for the overall title going into the last round.
Yeah, remember as well, just before we forget, because we didn't mention it in race 1 because it was pretty good entertainment in race 1. Driver of the day, you guys can have your input for driver of the day as well. If there is no standout performers, like say I went strong for Nicky Taylor last time out because he was the entertainer in race number 2, then your influence can matter an awful lot, and we'll pick potentially off your recommendations as well. So throw some names at us who you think's driver of the day. Give us some who do you want to see win the AOC gaming headset, and we'll try and take that into consideration as Dan Zelos gets past Brad Smith eventually, but Brad Smith is going to be on the inside. He's going to brake late, and there's going to be a tight touch. No, there isn't a touch, but only because Dan Zelos realised what was happening and came out of the throttle really nice and early and hit the brakes, gave him plenty of room. Smith being a bit of a, I wouldn't say a bully here, Dave, but I wouldn't say he's lying down.
He is definitely not. He's probably a nuisance. Is probably the good word for it. Dan Zelos is probably thinking he's got significant pace, but what a move by Zelos, but unfortunately getting given the shoulder by Brad Smith. Dan Zelos, this is where you'd be thinking, as a driver, come on Brad, I'm blooming fighting for a championship here, and you're letting the pack ahead get away, and I've got all the bees behind me, trying to get past me for the championship. So Brad really is the cork in the bottle, but Dan Zelos with the lunge finally getting the job done. But I tell you what, I think Brad Smith's going to have him back here. He has indeed. Andy Dorman is probably looking at this thinking, I tell you what, how can I work this out? Ryan Elliott's getting past Dan Zelos. I tell you what, this is making it more and more interesting as we go.
It is indeed, yeah. So a late break by Zelos on Elliott, but they're still just swapping positions. Elliott keeps that, and I think here comes Andy Dorman. Brad Smith is really upsetting the apple cart here, isn't he? After a fantastic race 1, Zelos has stagnated. He can't get past, and that is just, he's bleeding positions now.
Well, Andy
that
Carroll
might help him. Dorman coming off the track might help him a little bit. It certainly helped Andy Carroll, who was absolutely flying in race 1. And I'd say is probably, I think you mentioned him before, Dave, as a potential driver of the day just because of its improvement and his good race 1 pace. Up the inside goes Ryan Elliott on Brad Smith, but Brad Smith isn't going to make that easy. That's one thing we've noticed for sure. A strong defensive drive by him at the moment, not letting anybody pass. And that's allowing Jack McIntyre to get ahead. I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled, McIntyre, if he does manage to come away with 5th place with that 80 kilograms on board. Maybe he can take the weight reduction into Brands Hatch.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Brad Smith is actually, I was just about to say, really impressed me how he's coping with the pressure of these drivers just behind him. For all, he's lapping good and consistently. You can see it's really, he's doing a very good job to hold on to P7 here at the moment, or P6 should I say.
Yeah, Kay Baker's coming to the chat saying driver of the day should be Callum Newsham. I'm not surprised to see that one as your vote, Kay. Dan Zelos, no, it's just the timing tower, I think, having a bit of a glitch. I thought all of a sudden he was up to 3rd place and he's fallen down the order, but he isn't. He's still in 8th, just trying to get ahead of Brad Smith for the umpteenth time. Does he manage to make it stick this time? Ryan Elliott's got past Brad Smith. He's trying to follow Ryan Elliott through. He gives a little bit back to Brad Smith, thinking, I remember the corkscrew 2 laps ago. Don't think I've forgotten about that too quickly. But here comes Brad Smith again. Zelos leaving that door open, but he shuts it now. He gets to the apex, and Zelos ahead of Smith with how much longer? Smith looking up the inside, gives him a little bit of a love tap going through, but he doesn't manage to actually get the place of Zelos. So Zelos, using Elliott to his advantage, finally gets through.
Yeah, and I tell you what, this has turned into a good little battle. Andy Carroll and Andy Dorman behind. Yeah, again, Andy Carroll, look at how clean his car is. He's just been calculated, maybe not as aggressive as the other drivers to get ahead there, but incredibly impressive drive going side by side. A little brake check he took in. That's what's needed. That could have been a very nasty position if both them drivers had tried to go side by side round there.
Yeah, so as Dorman going in nicely through 9th place. There we go. I was about to say it's worth jumping back to the race lead because Callum Newsham has pulled away somewhat, but Scott Buchner, Jordan Brennan and Chris Shepherd are still fighting nice and close as well. It has to be said, Chris Shepherd has actually caught these drivers up really rather significantly because remember, he had to get through the pack. He had to overtake Jack McIntyre and then catch about a 3-second gap here. So it's very nice and close. And as soon as Brennan goes for a move on Buchner. Speak of the devil. Shepherd will be there to try and take advantage. Brennan going through on Buchner. Nicely done there. About as safe as you can get it from both of those drivers there. And in fact, Chris Shepherd has caught up, but maybe he was hoping for more.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive. I don't know whether this is maybe Scott Buchner realising, oh, and there's been a collision. We don't know who that was. I'm trying to look at the server logs. No, I'm not quite sure. That looked like a bit of a turn one incident. Maybe your driver getting a little bit sideways on entry, and Brad Smith currently out in front of Andy Carroll. Andy Dorman dropping back to P10. So it'll be really interesting to see what happened there. I'm only going to guess that was maybe something along the lines of a collision between Brad Smith and Andy Dorman, looking at where they were in positional on the track at the time.
Yeah, I think from the contact that on our log on our website we can see the damage sustained by drivers. All I saw were the two Andys, so it's going to be interesting to see if we can hear from either of them about that incident. But this is Andy Carroll going through on Brad Smith. Brad Smith, he's had a good race, but it's all coming undone now, isn't it? And that's a huge move by Andy Carroll, and using a lot of gravel to do so, isn't he? But still, Brad Smith now dropping down the order. He's in 9th place, but I tell you what, he did a very good job. For a good 16 minutes here, he's been really fighting hard. Even for about 15 minutes, he was fighting hard to keep within the top 6. So fair play to Brad Smith.
Yeah, he'll have a fair sweat on there, I would have thought. That is a fair, determined effort. A P9 is still a fantastic result. Honestly, the standard of the driving in this mini JCW championship is absolutely top level. You know, you can put a good lap in and then look at the timing sheets and still be 4-5 tenths off the pace. So honestly, the pace of these top boys here is absolutely phenomenal.
3 minutes and 30 seconds left of this race. Jordan Brennan is 1 second behind Callum Newsham here, when we've seen that Brennan has a lot quicker pace than Newsham. Is it going to be enough for a 3-minute chase to the line? We'll have to wait and see. Dan Zelos gets past Ryan Elliott. Was that Elliott off the road? I was looking at my timing tower, Dave.
Yeah, I believe it was. So Ryan Elliott, I think that's what happened a few laps ago. Ryan Elliott running wide in that same corner. So I think maybe that's just a case of he's not quite managing to judge the throttle on the exit and running it wide, or maybe catching a little bit of that inside curb, because it is incredibly aggressive if you clip that curb on the inside. So yeah, that's allowed Dan Zelos to get up into 6th place. That's definitely going to be good for Dan's championship hopes. Andy Carroll up into 8th. Dorman dropped back to 10th. But Jack McIntyre yet again bringing home good consistent points. Another 5th when, let's face it, the pace wasn't there at the start.
I genuinely don't know which one I prefer, which one I'm more excited about. The checkered, the gun for the line for the next 2 minutes and 20 seconds, or just to see the championship standings at the end of this race, because it's going to be fascinating. Newsham still ahead by a full second, but this is the fight for 2nd place realistically. Brennan hasn't shaken Buchner. Shepherd has just about clung on to the back. 2 minutes to go. I think that's going to be 2 laps only, so we're going to have to start seeing moves if moves are going to be made. 11 laps in, and it's been absolutely fascinating from start to finish, hasn't it, really? Who did we have on pole position? We had Brad Smith. He's down to 9th, so he hasn't dropped out the top 10. That's still a fairly impressive run from him. Callum Newsham, not maybe the first race that he was hoping for, but certainly the 2nd. Jordan Brennan, again, strong in race 2. I think he was strong in qualifying as well. Wasn't race 1 that he wanted. Chris Shepherd fighting back through the pack. Dan Zelos, great race 1, maybe slightly disappointed race 2. Chris Shepherd is probably the driver who'll be overall quite happy with how race 1 and 2 have gone so far, as Chris Shepherd tries to go for a podium position and make it slightly better than he was hoping for, but he stays behind Scott Buchner for now. And I said actually just then, Dave, that Chris Shepherd's probably the happiest. I reckon Jack Mack's probably the happiest. Dorman, where are you going? Dorman flies through on Brad Smith, but then completely ignores the fact that he has to brake, and he goes flying off the circuit. He's now down to 10th. Yeah,
it was almost looked like a brake failure, but I think it's probably fair to say, Scott Buchner with getting done by Chris Shepherd there on the last corner. So this is going to be going on to the last lap. We've got another last lap sprint here, Jack. I'll let you take over for what's going to possibly occur.
Yeah, Buchner looking to the outside after getting a little bit into the back of Shepherd, who has been voted driver of the day by Simon Reed. So we'll take that into consideration as well when we decide driver of the day in the next 30 seconds. Scott Bugner, though, he's crawling all over the back of Shepherd, and he hits him into the back of Shepherd as well. Manages to just about stay behind. Maybe that was he came off the throttle just to allow Shepherd that little bit of breathing room that he owed him because of that contact just before. Newsham in the race lead, Jordan Brennan in second place, but this is now the battle for third place. Brennan's probably very thankful that this has sparked off as well because he's managed to drive just about far enough away. We're on to the last lap. The timer has just ticked down to 0. Going through the left-hander, the most important corner on the entire circuit, and wide goes Chris Shepherd. Buchner getting that cutback, but a brilliant exit on the cards here, a brilliant finale on the cards here. Hopefully they keep it clean into the corkscrew, and that is deep by Buchner. Shepherd will get back ahead. Buchner tried his best, but he didn't succeed. Zelos has got past McIntyre.
Yes, Zelos past McIntyre. That's huge for championship standing points. I tell you what, McIntyre just dropping back a little bit there, but it wasn't quite enough for Brennan. Callum Newsham bring him home the P1. In fact, it isn't a bad run out that last corner, or was that a little bit of Callum Newsham letting his mate through? Callum Newsham, I believe that was what it was, letting Jordan Brennan through to take the race 2 win, should I say. So I think that's going to probably seal it for going forward into Brands. I think Brennan will be on the top of the championship, but not by much at all. Andy Dorman coming home in 10th, and Will Powell managing to finish the race in 11th place. Kenny Press with a great looking car there. Kenny does some fantastic liveries on a lot of the cars here, so big credit to Kenny. I know he doesn't get enough shout outs for that, so well done, Kenny.
Yeah, an absolutely awesome race to finish it off as well. Jordan Brennan takes the race victory because of the generous nature of Callum Newsham. We're not going to give him driver of the day for it, but I'm sure Jordan Brennan might buy him a pair of AOC gaming headsets if he comes out the victor of this championship. Callum Newsham then in second place, Chris Shepherd in third. Now, we haven't done driver of the day, Dave. We haven't discussed it that much because we've been so engrossed in what's happening. To be honest, I'm actually with Simon Reed on the YouTube chat. I personally think that Chris Shepherd deserves driver of the day. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a difficult decision. It's between two drivers for me, possibly Chris Shepherd, or for me Andy Carroll as well. It was just the drive that I think we needed to see from Carroll. Some great pace. You know, he's not getting involved too heavily in some of them championship battles. You know, he knows he's not quite at the top, fighting for them top positions. So he gets involved in the battles that he needs to get involved in, but always keeps it clean and has some great racing respect. So for me, it's probably Andy Carroll, but we might need to bring Rich into the chat here, I believe, as maybe a little bit of a want to sway the results, if you like.
Oh yeah, blame me.
You're here again to do you're here again to do it.
We're stuck on the fence a bit here, so we'll let Rich decide of which drive. It might be a different drive, and then we'll have 3 drivers on the fence.
You can pass the book to Tom if you really wanted. No one can hear him.
Do you know what? Actually, I agree with Dave. It's really between Andy and Chris, but I think I'm going to go with Chris.
Yeah, I think so. I think although Andy did brilliantly in race 1,
I agree.
He was definitely driver of race 1. But overall, Chris, he got through, didn't he? He was clean, and he's got 2 podium positions as well. So it's hard to argue.
I love Tom's just put in the chat, no comment.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to call Chris Shepherd as the driver of the day this round for Laguna, Seca and the mini JCWs. But for now, Dave, I think you could probably go and have a chat to our podium sitters.
Yeah, we can indeed. So we'll go down our P3 finisher, Chris Shepherd, and awarded our driver of the day as well. Huge congratulations for that. It was a tough fight in race 2, wasn't it? It was a very hard grid to get through, and just managing to get on that podium position in them last few laps.
Yeah, what a race, man. I think a few of them were just gifted where, like me in the first race, just people going on the gravel and you just get the run out the corner.
Yeah.
And this is one of those tracks where you can just anticipate and get the faster exit on the turns. And just, yeah, what a race, man. I'm buzzing after that one.
Yeah, I bet it. it's really one of them races where I'm looking at it as a driver myself and going, them are the races that you just want to be a part of. Good, clean racing, but it's so fast and precise as a track. For me, one of them tracks that I imagine it was probably quite hard to follow, to spot them apexes, to get the best run through the corner possible. Unfortunately, I think we have actually lost Chris Shepherd there. So we'll move on. Huge congratulations, Chris, on taking Driver of the Day and a podium finish. We'll move on to our P2 finisher. It was on the last corner, but I think that was a little bit of friendship there. Callum Newsham, P2 finish, but a fantastic race, leading from start to finish.
Yeah, it was a good race. But as soon as I saw Jordan get into second place, I was like, yeah, if he gets a good gap, I'll let him have it after ruining his race, both of our races in the first one. So.
Well, that's very kind things to do. Obviously, it was, I believe, internet issues was the reason why there was a slight bit of contact. It's a little bit inevitable. You can't really help it, but very, very supporting friendship there from you. I take it from a race point of view. It was watching your pace throughout the day. You're just getting quicker and quicker and more comfortable with the track in the car, weren't you?
Yeah, but in that last race, I think I was quite struggling actually. I was not consistent whatsoever. So I get a gap and then I make a mistake and then I close back in and I get another gap. So it was quite poor driving for me, to be fair.
Well, that's very, very honest from you, Callum. We didn't notice that particularly. But anyway, huge congratulations on taking another podium result. Big championship haul going forward into Brands, and it is all open for the championship. So really looking forward to the finale. Congratulations, Callum.
Cheers, thank you.
I'm moving on to our P1 finisher. As I said to Callum, it was on the last corner. You probably weren't necessarily expecting it, but huge congratulations taking P1, John, and managing to work your way through that race 2 grid.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, to be fair, but yeah. Big thank you to Callum for that, but it didn't need to. But
well, yeah. It has helped a lot, I would say, Jordan. You're going forward into Brands with the championship lead over Dan Zelos, so it has all helped, but the championship, as you can imagine, is incredibly close going forward to it. I take it this is going to be a really tough finale.
Yeah. Ideally, I didn't want to go into there in first place, but we are doing, so we'll have to see what we can do with the most amount of weight, but I don't know. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, you were still racing here at Laguna Seca with quite a considerable amount of weight on. Yes, you took 25% out of your car, but you still had a good chunk of that weight on board. How effective was the car? Could you feel the weight that much? I mean, obviously you had Nürburgring as well with a lot of weight on the car. Take it on tracks like this where you've got the gradient and the corners and where it's all about that carrying as much mid-corner speed as possible. That weight probably was hurting you quite a bit here.
Yeah, it seemed to struggle through the first and middle sector. I don't know. I seemed to pull it back a little bit in the last one. But yeah, it was difficult. It was a bit easier to race, I think, around this track. With Nürburgring, I felt like I could have been quicker. It's just the races were very scrappy, so it was hard to get through anything.
Yeah, I mean, the races did somewhat resemble a bit of a car park, and that's not regarding the speed of the cars. It was just how tightly packed they all were. Yeah. So one driver gets through and the rest of them get through. But yeah, fantastic effort anyway, Jordan, getting through there, bringing home them brilliant championship points that you need going forward into the finale. And we're looking forward to seeing how you get on there with, well, basically a person sat in your car.
Yeah, we'll see how we do. Cheers, thank you.
Spot on.
And that was Dave Marshall chatting to our podium finishers and also our new championship leader, as he alluded to. Jordan Brenner then on top with 86 points, only 4 points ahead of Dan Zelos. Then Jack McIntyre in third. He'll shed a lot of weight and he'll be very happy about it, I'm sure. Chris Shepherd in fourth, Callum Newsham fifth, Ryan Elliott sixth, Scott Buchner in seventh. And I'll just stop at that top 7 there, Dave, because look how close it is from 4th down to 7th. Chris Shepherd, Callum Newsham, Ryan Elliott and Scott Buchner separated by 2 points. Absolutely outstanding, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to put my neck on the block as well.
Whoa.
Looking at that, I know which driver I would want to be in which position. So for me, for Scott Bugner to be sat in 7th place, only 12 points away from winning the championship, but as you can see, he's actually only, as you said, 2 points behind 4th place finisher Chris Shepherd. That is the ideal scenario for him regarding ballast in the car.
Well, exactly, because he'll have 20 kilos of ballast on board, whereas Chris Shepherd, obviously 2 points higher, will have, if my maths is correct, 40 kilograms of ballast on board, 50 kilograms of ballast on board.
50,
so
yeah.
there's going to be a massive difference going up the hills at Brands Hatch, isn't there, and into the braking zones.
Yeah, more than double the weight for the sake of 2 points. I
Absolutely
mean,
incredible.
What a championship this has provided. And yeah, I cannot wait for Brands. I'm sure Rich will agree.
Yeah, I'm sure he will as well. But I think it's probably around about that time that we sort of round out the stream here. Dave, it's been stunning. Laguna Seca, as I said before, it's in my opinion, it's a slightly underutilized track. This is genuinely my first time in about a year and a half of commentating on Laguna Seca, and it hasn't disappointed. As well, it never was going to with the mini JCWs flying around it, was it though? Hockenheim, Nürburgring, Laguna Seca, tick them off. Brands Hatch next week for the finale of the mini JCW League of Champions, and then we'll be able to bring you as well the updated leagues for the actual finals going into the League of Champions finals. That'll be 2 weeks after Brands Hatch as well. In fact, there we go. Finale races. What are these guys all racing for? Well, if you finish from first attempt in the overall standings, you're fighting for an AccuForce V2 Pro direct drive wheel, an OBP eSports pedals as well, and the AOC 34-inch curved display. And even if you're in the 11th to 20th places going into the finale weekend, you're still racing for the Sim Race 5, the Sim Race 3, and the GT F1 race seat that all the individual championships have been fighting for as well. So plenty of prizes, plenty of drama still left to come here for the AOC Gaming League of Champions. My name's been Jack Oliphant. I've been joined by Dave Marshall in the commentary box. Thank you very much for tuning in with us, and we'll see you later. Good night.
The inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved, and that's Whitehead and Coates.